There you have the purple heron right there in the light, in the sunlight, beautifully reflected in the water. Sensitive to our presence as well, even though we're far enough away, just from the turning of her head. Good morning, everybody. It's always interesting to see how so many more people pay attention to Jerusalem. It's always an attraction. There's something about Jerusalem that touches all our hearts. The blessing and gift that Jerusalem is for the world. And every place that's our home is a blessing for each person, but somehow Jerusalem is kind of a home for the whole world, for the whole of humanity. There's a whole dimension that comes out in the readings today that, in a certain sense, underscores what the gift of faith is, the gift of living with a view of the world, of reality, that there's more to reality than what we see and what we hear. And especially to ourselves. And to God. We once did a summer camp for children here about 15 years ago. Children from Jerusalem. Their parents are working at Notre Dame. And it was about treasure under the ground. Or treasure beneath our feet, something like that. I don't remember the exact name of it. And one of the places we brought them to was a huge cave. But before we went into the cave and explored it, we were walking around outside and just looking at the ground and the leaves and the plants that were growing there. We asked them what's under our feet, and they said, well, just rocks, you know. And then we went into the cave, and it's a huge cave. It's like as big as a football stadium. It's over near Bet Shemesh. That's between Jerusalem and Tel Aviv, more or less. And when they were building, I think it was a road or something, there was a bulldozer taking a scalp out of the mountain. And in doing that, the side of the mountain crashed in because it was no longer able to sustain itself. And so the cave was discovered. And so right there, under your feet, you were walking on a stadium-sized cave. And not only that, it's filled with stalactites and stalagmites. and that took ever so long to get formed, with that water dripping in the limestone. Really big ones. And it was just fascinating. And then we went out and walked on the ground again outside, and then opening the mind to realize that there's a lot under the ground that we mightn't know about. In fact, before coming here, when I was in Phoenix, I'm not sure if I was already here when it was announced, but there was a discovery made of an ocean of water just west of Phoenix. It was discovered underground. So much so that it has allowed for a major expansion of the city in the last 15 years to the west, because it's a desert country and that part of the US, and that water was a huge treasure lying there under the ground that could be used, or the discovery of oil or many other things, minerals. So there's a lot beyond what the eye can see. Just in the physical world, we could think of the energy coming from the atoms that we don't see, and that kind of helps just to waken up our mind. We're walking along here, and there's a ton of archaeology under our feet here for sure, for many good reasons we don't have to go into, but this is all part of ancient Magdala. Who knows what's underneath here? But for sure it was inhabited, there's no question about it. So, and that's just in the physical world. The treasures that are inside of us as human beings, and the treasures inside God. And there's another line that kind of is the tip of the iceberg in that understanding, and it is the commentary that Paul makes about the battles in this life are not just the battles between, the forces of the earth, the forces that we see, the dynamics of power plays that we see in politics throughout history, the rise of empires and emperors and opposition to them and revolutions. And he says that battles are battles of the spirit, of the spirits, of a spiritual world. And that's very much to be read about today in the readings. We have demons calling out when they're expelled that Jesus is truly the Messiah. He's going to destroy their kingdom. Somebody made a comment how the demons don't have faith. They know from supernatural knowledge much about the reality of God, and they're fallen angels. And they know God. They know and tremble. And then but they're in rebellion. And then the human beings, we think we know who God is, like yesterday in Nazareth, who this guy is Jesus, and absolutely don't have a clue who he is. Because there's a dimension that goes beyond what the eyes have seen, what the ears have heard in every human being. And in Jesus, always in a very particular sense. And this wakes us up to be objective about life, to realize that there's so much in our lives, so much extraordinary blessing, such a dimension to be respected, a mystery that's going on. The word mystery is very important here. It's a very helpful word. And therefore there are a lot of potentials and capacities in us way beyond what we would just gather with the eye. Somebody who is sick, somebody who is, let's say, mentally affected and limited in some serious ways. And yet there's a mystery inside that person that's going on, where God is doing his work. To know ourselves, we're much more than just skin and bones, and the reality of our imagination, of our memory, the reality of our capacity of knowledge and learning, the reality of our will, and these are all at the human level analyzed. And then what God does through us, through his gifts, we just see a shadow of the greatness that God is producing. And if we flip that around then and start looking at God, like, who could have imagined that God would have become incarnate? That's the faith we have received. That he could walk here in the waters. That he could calm the storm. And actually these are just signs of something more that he's doing in the transformation of lives. In developing sanctity and holiness in people. If we just go to the readings there today. I was hoping that my readings would come up, but I had lost them for a moment. But it looks like I'm on the way now. Yeah, I got it back. I had lost the line. I needed to get a connection off the phone, and I was ready again. The Spirit scrutinizes everything, even the depths of God. God is a mystery. We will never exhaust, even in eternity, that's the understanding that we will never exhaust the mystery of God, because we're still a finite created spirit. Even in glory, we will obviously have a whole other level of reach, and yet God will not be exhausted by us as a creature. And it's good to think about these things, because sometimes the material world weighs down so heavily on us. And to realize that God is doing a lot of work in us. And really only he knows it. It's on another level, beyond matter. And participation, like in these readings, through these readings, into the mind of God, into the way God works. And let's say opening up the whole field of forgiveness, of letting go of past hurt, because God is doing a much bigger thing in our lives. Something extraordinary. Giving him space to work it out, giving him time to work it out. When our little mind only thinks revenge, only thinks hatred, only thinks hurt. It's amazing to watch Jesus in Nazareth, being rejected by the people, and he moves on and continues his mission. He doesn't stick his head in the sand. He doesn't play the victim. There's extraordinary freedom. Because there's a whole other world there. The Lord is gracious and merciful, slow to anger and of great kindness. The Lord is good to all and compassionate to all his works. We're in Psalm 145 there today. We're right across here from Capernaum, let's say more or less in the center of the screen there, over at the edge of the water. I can't see my finger anymore here with the light and the sun here on the screen is too intense. What we see, what we hear, what we talk about, what we read about is one thing, what we know from calculations. But then what we know through faith and through hope and through love, it's another level of living, another plane. And it's definitive reality. Obviously, I know we have some participants here in the Sunrise Stroll and Chat who profess atheism or agnosticism, and I respect that. I respect the person who is participating. And their difficulty in understanding this kind of conversation this morning. And that's also a mystery, the gift of faith. It's not something that we hold and own by our power. It's a gift. A wonderful gift. I just noticed something the children must have done in their camps this summer here. But there are 2 pools created. Where they were playing with the water coming out here, so they built up these 2 areas. And that water is very, it's chilled because it's coming from the mountain. So it is refreshing. And the waters coming from the scriptures are fresh. They help us, they refresh us in our world. Let all your works give you thanks, O Lord, and let your faithful ones bless you. Let them discourse of the glory of your kingdom and speak of your might. Your kingdom is a kingdom for all ages, and your dominion endures all generations. People, God bless you. See you later, alligators. I can't see anything with the light here. So I imagine you're able to see me, but I can't see you. God bless you. See you later.